Check out the Full Press Hockey Podcast with Jim Biringer, the best in the business. It's going to be great.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back. This is the Full Press NHL Podcast, the weekly rumors segment. I'm your host, Jim Biringer, back alongside David Calabretta. Guys, this is the place to be. All the rumors, we're breaking it down. We're breaking down stuff. We're breaking news here. We've told you about a lot of things that have come through and through. David nailed Minnesota with David Jiricek. We'll get to that in a minute. We're going to start in Montreal. David, how are you today?
Happy, very happy and excited. I think it was a long 2 months, but as I reported a few weeks ago, Patrik Laine will make his return tonight against the New York Islanders. And he's going to be playing on a line with Kirby Dach and Jiricek. All unproven guys. We'll call it the unproven line.
Yeah, no, I mean, look, we've talked about it, right? Like, a lot of people gave us flack, but in respect to those that came back at us after and apologized, you know, they said, you know, why would you have to bring up the name Kirby Dach? Wondering, well, when Elliot Friedman wonders about it, we're wondering about it. You know, like I said, subscribe to the channel, Full Press Hockey. We're right there on YouTube. We told you about Dach before anybody. And let's see what happens, because we've talked about it numerous times. The Montreal Canadiens expect a lot from Kirby Dach and this line. This is the reason they brought in Patrik Laine.
Yeah, and look, going back to like the criticism over the last few days, or we love that. And like any podcast, you're allowed to spitball. And we weren't really just, saying that Kirby Dach was getting traded. So to make it clear, we're just saying that he will get calls from other teams and Montreal will listen compared to last year. So anyways, just wanted to clear the air there. And then Patrik Laine, obviously, Montreal is going to be rejuvenated tonight, and I have some people that are going to the Bell Center and they can't wait. And, I expect a standing ovation every time he touches the puck, and that's Montreal for you. And another player that's going to probably get some love tonight, and if you're on Montreal's Twitter, you will know that Kirby Dach, rough few days for him. The rumors don't help, but also a rough penalty in the last minute of the game against the Rangers. He's gotten some slack from mainstream media to the fans. And I think tonight, I want to give a shout out to Habs Fan TV, some Montreal Canadiens community, and they're trying to get a standing ovation for Dach to get him back on his feet tonight. So it's gonna be a fun night against the Islanders.
Yeah, no, that's huge for a kid like that, for Dach. He had a rough couple of days. Team had a rough couple of days, and didn't help when you lose to Boston. And one more before we move down to my area. Look, I know a lot of people said, Caden Primo kept them in the game against Boston. It could have been a lot worse. Cole Caulfield is going to get 40 goals. I don't care what anybody says. But you have to have a conversation about the backup goaltender. Like, they probably should have got one in the summer. Didn't. You had 3 goalies last year. Primo, it was the third guy. A lot of people were, waivers. I get it. I understand. But in his outings as the backup goaltender, they just haven't been great. You need more. The team in front of him is not helping either, but let's be honest, I think they probably need to get a veteran backup in there.
Yeah, and when you play your backup goalie, you need some saves in important moments. And so far, Primo hasn't really stepped up like that. But, obviously he's got a lot of slack last game. But if you really look back, a lot of defensive errors really caused Primo to let in those goals. But look, I agree getting a veteran goalie might be the next move, especially for a team like Montreal. And I think Montreal doesn't want to give up on Primo yet, because goalies, they only start peaking at 26, 27, and he's still 25 years old. But, it's not it's too early to write off Primo. But if the performance keep coming, yeah, there could be a change.
Yeah, I could definitely see it, considering, they got Jacob Fowler coming. So, I mean, they have a nice depth there, but again, performances have to change. So, something to watch tonight. Patrik Laine back, Kirby Dach. Let's see how this team looks against the Islanders team. Let's be honest, the Islanders themselves, we can get into them too. There's a lot of turmoil with the Islanders, and there's a lot of turmoil in New York, period, not only with the Islanders, the Rangers, the Jets, the Giants. The Devils not so much because they play in New Jersey. But let's focus in on the Islanders before we get to the Rangers. The Islanders, a lot of noise around that team, especially the guy who runs the ship, Lou Lamoriello. I've been harshly critical of him, rightfully so, sometimes not. But let's be honest, this team needed to get younger. This team needed goal scoring. They just don't have the depth that they do. And according to some people, Lou might be managing for his job that I've talked with, and he is on an expiring deal. And there were some people that wanted him gone last year.
Yeah, and look, GMs usually like to go all in on their last year, make a splash, and you saw it with Marc Bergevin in Montreal. He, in the offseason, he went to go get Tyler Toffoli, Josh Anderson, Corey Perry, and those guys are crucial pieces to Montreal's run. But you didn't see that in New York. And I wonder if they thought that this team was good enough to really take the next step. But if you look at the Eastern Conference, there's really only one spot left.
Right.
And that's between the Bruins and all the other wildcard teams. And look, do the Islanders have enough juice to go 82 games with this team?
No.
So change could be coming. It's only a matter of time.
Look, I understand there's no Matthew Barzal. I understand there's no Anthony Duclair, Adam Pelech. I get it. Kyle Palmieri, Brock Nelson's name is going to be out there, especially Nelson. His name was out there last year. Teams were calling about him. They're going to call about him again. Why wouldn't you? He's a consistent 30-goal scorer. You want that on your team. He's a center, obviously, as documented here. This is center's market. Everybody wants centers around the league. He can fill a lot of needs, especially like maybe on a Nashville team. Again, I'm not saying he's being linked there, but I'm just saying that's a team you wonder about. Calgary's looking for centers. Everybody's looking for center help. So that could be a name that's out there. Kyle Palmieri is a goal scorer. But again, the problem is Lou Lamoriello never believes his team is out of it. He always just wants to get in the playoffs and see what happens. The issue is the coach and the GM are not on the same page. You can clearly see it with the comments that he made. Oh, this is the team that Lou gave me. I got to do the best with it. And the best for them. That's kind of telling, and that's kind of a shot. And we all know the last couple of years, a couple of things that the Islanders needed was goal scoring. They just don't have it.
No, they really don't. And I think we have bigger problems right now in New York. Jim, let's talk about the Rangers now.
Let's do it. They're big time problems. Look, last week we started it. There was reports last week that New York Rangers looking to make some drastic changes. Move Jacob Trouba, Chris Kreider, could be others on the way. They get a lucky win over the Montreal Canadiens. You can leave your notes in the comments about whether you want to call it lucky or not. They got help. It was luck, and the officiating did not help their cause, the Canadiens. However, the Rangers got absolutely smoked by the New Jersey Devils, another contending team. They only have one win against a good team this year. Contending playoff team is Toronto Maple Leafs, and they always beat that team for some reason. But everybody else, big goose egg. That room is lifeless. The captain doesn't want to be there. There are guys that are on his side. There are guys that are on management's side. And look what's happening. There are major issues in New York.
Yeah, and when there's smoke, there's fire. And, New York have been in drama since the offseason. Like I said it before, it started with Chuba. They tried trading him. Dury comes out, and he thinks he's trying to be a hero here. But that has made things worse, saying that Chris Kreider and Chuba is on the block to get a reaction out of them. And when the losses continue to pile up, there's 4 days left until their next game. Something's happening, right?
There should be something happening. We saw what the game against Columbus for Boston that fired a coach. Similar situation, fired a coach. Like the Devil game last night, it's the same issues I spoke about on a Rob Peterson show before our recording today. And when people see this is structure is bad. They get beat on the rush constantly, can't break out. Their starts are poor. And let's be honest, they continue to rely on their goaltender to win them games. As much as Igor Shesterkin is good, their defense in front of them is just bad, and it is really bad. And there's a second-year Laviolette thing for some reason. No one can put their finger on it, but the last several stops for Peter Laviolette, second year, the team just completely falls apart.
Yeah, and I was actually speaking to other people when the Montreal Canadiens were in New York on Saturday. Their defensive structure, it's terrible. They gave Montreal two goals. And look, they have big names on there, but they're not performing. Keandre Miller, Jacob Trouba, Ryan Lindgren, 3 defensemen that have struggled heavily this season. And on top of that, they're not getting saves from Igor Shesterkin right now.
No, there's a lot of problems in there.
And that goes another comment from Igor wanting $13 million. So it's been drama all year in New York, and no one's really reacting from it in a positive way.
No, and I had Russ Cohen on, and we talked about it, and he said that the contract's a distraction. Maybe Drury should worry about getting the contract done. That'll may settle the room a little bit, and then you could worry about trading players. And I kind of agree with that. Like, take care of that first, because not only do you have him to extend, you have to determine whether Keandre Miller's getting a long-term extension, or are you going to bridge him? Are you bringing back Ryan Lindgren? By the way, you still want to trade Jacob Trouba. Who else is going to move, and who else do you want to bring in? Because they have still yet to find a right winger to play with Chris Kreider and Mika Zibanejad.
Yeah, and there's not one solution right now in New York. And it's going to take a lot more than 4 days to figure everything out here. But
Yeah.
you have to start with something. And I don't know who it's going to be, because you can name a handful of things. Someone going on waivers. Are they making a trade? Are they stripping the captaincy? Are they firing the coach? Are they firing the GM? There's just so many questions unanswered. And, the Rangers, they were once presumed a playoff lock. I don't see them even getting top 3 in the division anymore.
No, division's too good with Washington, with Carolina, New Jersey. I understand a lot of people didn't expect Washington to be this good, but Washington's a better team, and they know how to win in that division, especially against that team. They have a lot of issues right now. I mean, I would bridge Miller, but I don't even know at this point if I would bridge him, right? Lindgren, okay, he's going to walk anyway. If you don't sign him, he'll probably walk anyway. You got to figure out what you're doing. Like, there's only a couple guys showing up every night, and that's not how you win a hockey game.
And one of them is Will Cooley.
Every night he plays hard. Lafreniere's playing hard. Trocheck plays hard. But they continue to rely on the power play. And everybody knows Mika's going to set up for the one-timer. Their power play goal was different last night. Chris Kreider in front of the net. That's how they've been successful on the power play in recent years. Again, will he be coveted? Absolutely. Do I think teams like Boston will go after him? Absolutely. There'll probably be a handful of other teams that'll look to get him. But right now, you have 2 guys that have 15-team no-trade clauses. Trouba and Kreider determine where they want to go. So it's not an easy fix. I'll say it again. I think the Rangers made a mistake when they fired John Davidson and Jeff Gordon, because I believe, and, I've heard this multiple times, that, a certain Glenn Sather was in the ear of James Dolan. And again, James Dolan, New York Rangers, New York Knicks, find the connection there. I mean, he gets his hands on things, and then the team goes the wrong way. There's a pattern there with James Dolan. So, look, they got to reset some things. I still do believe they're going to change some things. It did quiet down a little bit, but after Monday night, you got to expect something's coming.
Yeah, I spoke to a few people today, and look, something's going to happen in the next 4 days. Big or small, just you can't let it go.
No.
Can't let it go. Anyways.
Yeah, so, I mean, a lot of trouble in New York, not only with the football teams, but the hockey teams. Like I said, the Devils are playing well. Jacob Markstrom, unreal. Just want a quick Devils nugget. I do believe, and Pierre LeBrun confirmed what I had already written and what we talked about on here. Devils looking for a winger, center, looking for depth. As always, Tom Fitzgerald always looking to improve areas of strength.
Yeah, for sure. I think the Devils need to go out there and get someone just to keep up with the big dogs in the Metro, because the 2 teams that have their number are Carolina and Washington, and you're not escaping them right now. So
no, they're not. So it's going to be interesting, but they have the goalie and the defense to do it. Speaking of defense, we mentioned it last week. David Jiricek goes to Minnesota. He was on the block. We wondered when it was going to happen. It happened Saturday afternoon. He goes to Minnesota. Couple of picks. Damon Hunt as well from Minnesota to Columbus. And, Columbus gets the picks. Jiricek goes to Minnesota. Looks like he's going to play. Your thoughts on the trade?
Look, I like it for both sides, really. I think Minnesota, like Bill Guerin said, it's an investment. And he still has a lot of stuff to work on. But when you have the chance to go grab a young defenseman to an already exciting core, it's a no-brainer. And then you look at Columbus, they handled their asset management very well. The guy didn't want to play for us. We got a first round pick back. It's going to be a late first rounder, obviously. But you get a second round pick, a third round pick, no, a fourth round pick, and a fifth round pick, along with Damon Hunt, who's played with Denton Mateychuk in Moose Jaw. So, look, you did what you got to do. And the more they would have waited, the more less of a return they would have got.
No, it's a great return. Not only that, Dean Evison knows the player, Damon Hunt. So he was in Minnesota when they brought him, they drafted him. So he knows that player. That's a good pick by Columbus. They're doing things the right way. It's always tough, It's always tough to give up on a kid that hasn't developed yet. But again, he wasn't Donnie Waddell's guy, and even previous management that picked him, handled him wrong. So he gets a fresh start in Minnesota. Good for him. I'm happy for David Jiricek. But again, he goes to Minnesota. There were other teams involved. I know for a fact Nashville, put two of their 3 first-round picks on the table to try to make a deal. But they didn't have anything else to go with it. Like, who else did they have? That was the problem. They didn't have any other prospects that they could send over. Their prospect pool isn't really that deep.
And I think Philly and Pittsburgh were in on him big time. And they may have offered a slight bit more, but they didn't want to trade him in the East.
No,
so that kind of says
smart.
a lot how they see Jiricek. And they know that he's a good player and he could haunt them in the future.
Yeah, I mean, like Russ said on the previous podcast, I think they would have probably offered up like a Morgan Frost type player for that in that trade, just because. But a good deal for them, for Minnesota. So you look at it, taking away from the NHL for a minute. Let's actually stay there for a minute before we go to World Juniors. Let's talk about Four Nations real quick. Four Nations rosters come out Wednesday. There's a lot of stuff going up on social medias about who potentially could be on it, who's on it, doesn't. I got a feeling there's some guys from Tampa and Florida that are going to be on that team.
Yeah, and I'm not confirming anything, but I wouldn't be surprised if Hagel and Cirelli are on that team. John Cooper guy, he's the coach, his players, and I'm not just saying they're making it because of the coach, because they've had a great season so far.
Mm-hmm.
Hagel and Cirelli, Cirelli is a great fourth-line center for Team Canada. He's going to play PK. Same with Hagel. So at the end of the day, it's going to be Florida heavy. And I also see Carter Verhaeghe on that roster as well.
I see Sam Bennett on that roster.
Sam Bennett?
Yeah. Just because, just the agitator, just that type of guy you need in a short tournament, can grind, be physical. Like, I just think that's a guy that I would think would be on there.
Yeah, and I'm a little, shocked, disappointed that Nick Suzuki didn't make that Team Canada team, because not only is he gonna would have played a great role on the fourth line, penalty killer as well. He was also a big fan of John Cooper. Is a big fan of Nick Suzuki. After the Stanley Cup final, great words about him. And look, at the end of the day, it just shows how deep this team is. And I also have a question for you. Steven Stamkos, is he on this team?
No.
You don't think so?
I don't think he's there, but you never know. Maybe they decided that Stammer and Cooper can reunite one more time. I mean, he's a good power play guy, but you're gonna have to play him on the wing with somebody. And it's a really deep team. Like you said, it's deep. Like who you taking off? Like who is not gonna be there? Because I think we know kind of who the big guns are that are already there, and we kind of think, we know McDavid, we know McKinnon, Crosby, like guys like that. I would say Marchand will probably be there because he played with Sid. Sid wants to play with those guys. I don't know where he would fit in, to be honest.
Yeah, and another player I'm curious to see if he's on this team tomorrow is Connor Bedard. That's someone who, started off as practically a lock. Slower start than usual. Guys like Hagel, Cirelli, Verhaeghe stepping up to the plate. I don't know if he's on this team. Maybe a 13th forward, but I don't see, even though there was a rough performance so far, he's also on a very bad Chicago team. And I don't see Canada not taking him because he just has that first overall pedigree and franchise tag on him. So I don't know. I want to hear your thoughts on that.
Look, Rod asked me this question too, and it's good timing because, as much as my heart and my head, that would you want to see a player like that on the international stage because you know what he can do. I believe he'll definitely be there in 2026 for Team Canada. I'm just not sure if he'll be on this Team Canada team. Like I said, it's too deep. Where's he playing? Is he playing? He's not playing down the middle, right? We already kind of know what their centers are down the middle. Is he going to play on the wing? Somebody's got to play on the wing. I know this is a type of tournament that could give him confidence, but it also gives him, if he doesn't make it, gives him time to reset. If he continues to struggle and not have like a great year, he can take some time away, reset, refocus. Remember, guys, like a lot of people forget that Nathan MacKinnon, wasn't Nathan MacKinnon right away. Yeah, he won the Calder Trophy, but it took a couple years after that to come into his own and really take over that Avalanche team. Like, let's be honest. So not everybody's Sid, not everybody's McDavid. It takes some of these guys some time. Even Eichel took some time, right? Like there's only a handful of players that can come in and consistently do this. Bedard will be fine. I mean, I will be interested to see where he is on this team. But to me personally, I'm not sure he's there.
Yeah, and another thing, I'm really disappointed with like some of the mock rosters so far, because I think it should be based on merit, how you start your season. And, we'll go to the other side of the border in the US, and there's guys like Jason Robertson on the rosters who's struggling heavily. But then Cole Caulfield, second in the league with 16 goals, is not even up for discussion. I'm a little disappointed because they both bring the same thing. It's goal scoring, and who's been the better goal scorer this year?
Who's the better international player?
Cole Caulfield. So I'm a bit disappointed.
So a couple of weeks ago, I would have said maybe Cole Caulfield's not on this team. My mind is changing. I think he makes this team now. I really do. I personally would put him on a team. Me personally, I think you could play him with Eichel. You could play him with a Jack Hughes. You can find that chemistry those guys had back in the day. Like, I think that's something you could watch for. We know who the goalies are. Like, we know it's Hellebuck, Ottinger, Swayman. We know Hellebuck's the starter. Like, that's a given. I want to ask you this one because I had this debate with Russ, and this is why that podcast kind of came up when we did a regular segment. Because you see Alan Walsh pounding the drum. Would you put Marc-Andre Fleury on Team Canada as the third guy just for like morale and keep the room light?
Yeah, and also with Fleury, I was speaking with my brother the other day. I think US should have Jonathan Quick as well as the third goalie, because the reality is these guys are not going to play.
No,
but they're going to be, they're veterans. They've been there before. I'd rather have a guy like Fleury than a guy like Hill, who's going to be just, sitting. A guy like Fleury with Crosby in that locker room, they've played at the Olympics together. It's going to be an awesome reunion, but not only that, veteran experience. So yeah.
No, I 100% agree with that. Like, I think that's something that they need to do. I think they should figure that one out, because personally for me, I think that they, should go that route. Like, I personally, Fleury, to me, you have that guy on there, the morale, the lightness, the jokes, the pranks, that's the stuff you need in a short tournament. Stay loose, keep the room light. Don't always be focused. That's a guy, he's probably not playing, but say he does. Maybe he gets a game in Montreal. That'll light a fire under him to play another game in Montreal, to say, hey, I got one more game in Montreal. My last game wasn't against the Canadiens in Montreal. I got one more game to play in Montreal. So I think that's something I kind of agree with you on Quick. It's going to be interesting to see if Luke Hughes is on that U.S. team. We know Jack and Quinn will be there. Luke is having a great year for New Jersey. I would be, to me, everybody kind of gave me, I don't want to say slack, but they're like, when NHL Network did their top 20 defensemen, or that came out, they do their list, and I'm like, how's Luke Hughes not on this list? And everybody's like, well, he's still young. I'm like, well, he's proven to be one of the best defensemen right now in the league, especially young defensemen. He's coming into his own. I think that's something somebody has to look at that. You have the Hughes brothers on that team. I think that's huge. You have the Tkachuk brothers would be great. That family knows each other. You keep things light in that room. Eichel will be there. Matthews will be there. It's gonna be fun to see when these rosters actually come out. I'm trying not to see how people leak stuff too.
Yeah, and I have a hot take here. I'm taking Team USA over Team Canada. Yeah. That's my hot take of the day. And look, it's gonna be a fun 4 Nations. Hopefully, we could be there together.
Yeah.
in Montreal. That'd be awesome.
Oh, that'd be huge.
Anyways, World Juniors, Jim.
Yeah, that Canada's roster came out. That was some shocking names were left off, including Michael Haig.
Yeah, I'm a big prospect guy. Before writing, that was kind of my thing, and I'm gonna be there this winter at the World Juniors, covering Canada, US, all those teams. It's gonna be fun. And I looked at the roster, a lot of snubs, and I'm very shocked. And I'll start with Beckett Seneke, 3rd overall, Anaheim, not taken. Zane Parik, 9th overall, not taken. Carter Yakimchuk, not taken. Michael Hage, leading pointer on on University of Michigan, not taken. And last but not least, Tija Ginla, not taken. And Michael Misa, who's exploding and is potential to be a top 3 pick in the draft, not taken. And I'm not sure what they're thinking through this, because last year it didn't really work out. Picking just guys, that are older, more gritty. They failed to score goals and they struggled heavily. There was good picks, but I don't see the direction they were going there.
No, it's very interesting because I saw a lot of people put out their all snub team for the roster, and I was like, wow, some of these guys that they left off. I know it's a 19-year-old tournament, but sometimes you got to mix those 18-year-olds in there to give it a little spark. We know what 18-year-olds can do in that tournament. Like I said, not everybody's Connor Bedard where you're coming in there 17-year-old and lighting the world on fire, McDavid or Crosby, guys like that. But this is one of my favorite tournaments. And look, the U.S. goaltending is not as good as it's been heading into the World Juniors, but they still have a really good team. Their roster is pretty deep as well. Obviously, Gabe Perreault leads the way. I mean, that kid's going to be a monster, for the Rangers. When he gets called up, that kid's a beast. He's got to probably win a Hobie Baker this year in college hockey. So, I mean, that kid's really good. But like you said, hopefully you're there. World Juniors coming up, covering it, Ottawa. Both of us are there in Montreal, in Boston for Four Nations, because you guys, like I said, Dave's been killing it. We've been killing. The information has been out there. People picking up our stuff. Full Press Hockey is the place to be. Weekly Rumors, the articles, everybody. We know our stuff. Just follow along, like the video, watch, subscribe, and just come join the ride, because there's a lot to digest in here, but you'll see sooner or later it'll be out there.
Indeed. Love it, boys.
Love it. Guys, Full Press Hockey, subscribe, YouTube, iTunes, Spotify, where you get your podcast. We'll be back again next week. Take care.
Barry Trotz, Nashville Predators, making sure you're listening to Full Press Hockey Podcast.